Welcome to On Texas Football. I'm Bobby Burton, joined by Gerry Hamilton and a very special guest, voice of the Texas Longhorns, Mr. Craig Way. Craig, how you doing this afternoon?
I'm great, and it is just wonderful to be on with the Batman and Robin of this whole world.
Bobby did not want me to be lumped in with him, I guarantee you.
You're Robin for sure, yeah. You got the mini suit. Yeah. Craig, seriously, thank you for coming on with us. We always appreciate when you're able to spend some time with us. I would talk to you on air at least since this past Texas football season. Your thoughts on what Texas did in 2024, its inaugural season in the SEC?
Well, I think they clearly demonstrated that not only were they ready, as everybody, was questioning whether the SEC route, but what they demonstrated was the preparation, the work they put into it, the hours of it. And you guys know from how closely aligned with Sark you are and how you have followed what he's done with the programs, that this was going to take time. But he always had a plan. He always had a vision. I don't know, all of what was to Mike Tyson, everybody has a plan, they get punched in the mouth. He had a plan for what happened when the time would come when they did get punched in the mouth, which was the first season. And it was to continue to build the depth. It was continue to build interior lines. That's where we all came acquainted with the phrase big humans, all of that stuff. He had that vision, and his staff did. And it was impressive to see, because a lot of times, as you know, you visited and covered a lot of coaches of the year. They might have a scheme and an idea, and then something knocks off track and they just can't get it back on track. And even though they took some hits early, he never wavered from the plan. He never deviated from what the mission was. And I think the result is what we saw in 2020.
You got to have a pretty good seat at some rivalry games on the road this year for the first time in SEC play. The return of the A&M series, what was that like? And then, Arkansas again.
Yeah.
How was that in year one?
It was the unique and different. The Arkansas game, the last time I had done a game in Fayetteville, was Sark's first year, and they us throttle. Yeah. The last time I'd done one before that was 04. And I think we remember Philip Yeager, big interception late in the game, Cedric Denson, big key touchdown, all that sort of stuff. The thing I remember most about that 2004 game was walking up that hill to the press box. And I'm in a suit. I did have a run orange tie on, but I'm in a suit. And there's a Razorback fan standing up on the hill just watching us. And the next thing I look up and I see something like a projectile headed right toward me. I stop. And it would splat right in front of me on the street. It was a pimento cheese sandwich. So somebody had torn up.
We're not the Augusta at the Masters here. No.
Perfectly good.
Yeah.
Those were the things that remember. And then obviously, pull back to what we started the conversation with about the preparedness and the way they built toward moments like that on the road, as good as this football team was on the road. And then in College Station, it was a different, unique feeling, because every game I'd ever broadcast, going back to 1991, all the way through 2011, we were always on that west side of the stadium.
Yep.
And now on the east side, so that was getting used to that. But it was fun to see the two teams playing.
So let's talk about that. 13 years.
Yeah.
You are, look, before you were voice of Longhorns, you travel around the state, high school football, every kind of football you could imagine. You were covering it. What does it mean to the state of Texas to have Texas A&M back, in your opinion? Because, look, Craig, you and I used to know each other when we did high school stuff together. You've seen this whole, this transition of sorts to college football becoming bigger than life almost. And now to have Texas and Texas A&M back, what does it mean within the state of Texas, in your opinion?
You remember when Matt Brown used to say that the Texas A&M game was, no matter where you were across the state on Thanksgiving weekend, you were going to cheer either for one or the other. That was little house divided stuff. And he did get that, but it was good for the game, and it was good for the state. It was good for high school football players. It was good for high school coaches. Obviously, the divided households and friends and friendships and getting together and watching. I have a lot of stories. A lot of people told me a lot of stories about how they had really long-time friendships with people, and they said, but I'm not going to be able to watch that game with them because of that. It reminded me of the just completed presidential race. It's just people that
Stay on the other side. Yeah. On the other side. Yeah.
But I do think it's good for college football. I think it's great for the state of Texas.
Yes.
I think it's really good for both institutions to have that game. And in this ever-changing world, and we all heard the commissioner earlier talk about, whether it's the 5+11 model, if it goes to 16 for the college football playoff, but they're at odds with the Big Ten about whether you're playing 8 conference games or 9 conference games. And he talked about the 10 power conference games on the schedule for the teams in the SEC, regardless of how many conference games they're playing. In the middle of all of that sort of stuff is the fact that you got some big time, heavyweight, headline grabbing, heart-stopping matchups. The ones we salivate over, the ones we say are just fabulous. Texas, Oklahoma every year. That is what it is.
Yep.
And it's the same thing now, once again, with Texas and Tennessee.
There will likely never be another Vince Young scores moment for you. Trying to have a perfect call. Where was your head at before 4th and 13 against Arizona State?
It's interesting. First of all, I had a much, much better angle to call a 4th and 13 than 4th and 5 at the USCA. The reason for that is Rose Bowl, both Rose Bowls, the Michigan one and the other, what they did was they took both radios, the radio networks, the USC and Texas, had us at the last 2 booths at the end of the press box. So I was on the opposite end of the field from where. So where was my head? My head was leaning out the window like this. That's how the 4th and 5 fall. I'm literally leaning out the window when I was doing that on that. And then, of course, here in this town, down the street over there at Mercedes-Benz, we had pretty good. We were about 30 yards behind. It was the goal that Texas had to score in. So I've got a really good close view of that. I remember just thinking to myself, and I think I might have said something like this on the air about somebody, well, it has to happen on this play. So this is it.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, kind of resigning myself to the fact that if it doesn't happen on this play, that's it. Season's over. But yet always in the back of my mind, I've seen enough in Uris, both high school state championship games and other games that I called that he played in. And I'd seen Matthew Golden make big play after big play. There was always going to be a chance, a shot, take a shot. And it had to be right where he threw it to make it out. So it was special. And that one, because I've been asked about this here, where does that rank, whatever of games you call them that, and the Dusty Mangum field goal, Shipley's touchdown in the OU game, and obviously the field goal to beat A&M, that sort of thing. It all kind of melds together for great memories, but that would definitely be a top 10 for sure, top 5 for it.
It was a great game. It was a little back and forth. Burt Auburn. I think we were counting this the other day. 4 for 6 against Georgia, and the people are in the SEC championship. 1 for 3 against Arizona State. Yeah. Atlanta is not his friend as we sit here.
This is not a good day.
So we'll hope for better things for him down. Cool. Okay.
Yes, exactly.
A lot less people in the stands.
Hey, Craig, you're not just the voice of Texas football. You cover a lot of sports for Texas. A couple of thoughts about new coaches. Jim Schlossnagle just finished his first year. And then Sean Miller, you've gotten a chance to talk to him a couple times, the new Texas basketball coach.
Well, first of all, with baseball, I thought Schloss would fit in very nicely with everybody. It was funny. Right after he was hired, and I was, just as I was before coming here into Atlanta, I was on vacation with the North Carolina coach when it happened. And I texted him to congratulate him and say, hey, I'm out east. I'll see you before long. And he texted back, you're in a better place right now than I am. So it was enjoy the vacation catch up later. Yeah. But I told somebody when they said, "What do you know, Schloss?" I said, "Let me take some." Spiegel is the first coach hired by Texas that I had his cell number before he became the head coach. We'd known each other, obviously, with his time at TCU and A&M. I thought, given what he was handed, what was projected, I think he would pick 7th or whatever in the SEC. And I'm like, for 2/3 to 3/4 of the season, the talent he accumulated performed incredibly well. Then when the injuries hit, obviously they took some hits, and it ultimately ended the season earlier than they wanted it to. With the guys he has coming back, especially in the pitching department, and the other guys he has coming in, I'm pretty excited about when he's back. Sean Miller, I saw firsthand there in Dayton, Ohio, what you could do with a team that might have been viewed as an underdog. He's always been really good at, kind of like with Schwartz, getting a lot out of what people might not consider to be a great team. And he can recruit, and I like what he has coming in. I'm pretty excited about what he's got.
I've never been able to ask you this question, so I think I will now. What's your favorite high school football stadium in Texas? I've always said the Longview, because I don't know if it's because it's set in the bowl.
Well, and you have to kind of walk through the school, the classroom building.
That's right.
So you open up, you're looking. It's one of my favorites. Tomato Bowl in Jackson.
Tomato Bowl's awesome.
Bobby went to the old Munson Stadium in Denison.
Yeah.
When we were doing a recruiting show back in the 90s. I love that old Rocky Stadium. House Park, from the old House Park, it's a great place. You get on that roof at night, they don't allow people north of we're not safe. But you get on that roof at night, looking back for downtown on a cool October night, that's something else. So there's great ones. And I love the big ones as well. I like Allen and South Lake Carroll and old Rattlers Stadium in Odessa.
What you're hitting at is it's hard to beat the oldies Texas football sounds. West Coast, West Texas.
Personally, and I tell people when they ask me about Major League Baseball, because I've been to any part that's getting use in the major leagues since 1971. I've been to all but 5. Okay, so when people say, "What's your favorite?" I have to split into the old ones. Right. The old ones. Fenway's incredible. And Wrigley's great too.
Yeah.
Fenway's great. The new ones, Pittsburgh, San Francisco. Those are both great. Boy, I think about Minnesota's is really nice. Up the new ones there. So, it's kind of like that with the high school football stadium. Yeah. I love and appreciate all of the old facilities. At the same time, I like the gleaming new big facilities as well.
We've been talking, I don't know if you've seen it yet. Have you seen the renderings of the LaPorte Stadium?
I have.
And the basketball arena is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Refinery money.
It's nice.
Refinery money's nice.
So it's not and tax-based school. People say, "Well, hey, Kenny, $61 billion, 202 million." So you got to understand that's for a total bond package.
Yes.
Not 61 million of it for the football stadium, because that's what they want for their. And when you have a multi-purpose facility, you could do so many things other than just play football. Yeah. And I think Allen proved that initially, and we've seen it in Duncanville over the years and several other places as well, that you could use an outstanding facility like that. Allen has culinary school in there. You could do a lot of different things.
So you no longer OMEC, it's culinary. That's right. So couple of 3 great road trips coming up for Texas this year. At Ohio State, which you've experienced before, at Georgia, and at Florida. You obviously haven't called games there, but have you been in either one of those stadiums, and how much are you looking forward to that one?
It's funny because I had people last year ask me, "Hey, first year in the SEC, what was your favorite football road trip?" And I said, my favorite football road trip was Ann Arbor. And they went, no. We mean in the conference. I said, well, you got to understand. I go to the Cotton Bowl every year, right. Pro U, and it's fabulous and it's on its own place. A&M I'd been through forever and ever. I said, now I'm looking forward to working on the other side, which I did for Westwood One. I did a national broadcast of a game they had against LSU a few years back there. But in terms of stadiums that I hadn't been to, going to Vanderbilt, I hadn't been to Vanderbilt. It was kind of unique in how it was. Arkansas I'd been to. So this will be different.
It's going to be cool.
Now, obviously, went to Ohio State 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And that was a wonderful. That is one of the highest altitude broadcast booths I have ever looked at. I mean, it was, I think, even higher
than Old Caulfield.
higher than old TCU.
Oh wow, aiming correct. Yeah, it was really.
It was up there. It's it's kind of like how Major League Baseball ballparks now are. If you're a media member, you're up the press box. Arlington's like it, but Pittsburgh, Washington, Milwaukee, you got live special. Your nose is bleeding.
Texas is moving the press box.
Yeah.
I was talking to John Bianco about that the other day. Hey, other question for you before we close out. Thank you so much for spending your time with us. Really appreciate it. You've been around Texas almost 30 years now. Is that about right? 34 years. How has college football and college sports changed in your lifetime, in your opinion? Just broadly, because look, you and I have both been doing this about the same amount of time. It's much more professionalized. It's many more resources put into it.
Yeah.
You've been more on the inside of that, though. I've seen it from the outside. What are your thoughts on the transition over this many years?
Well, money does change everything. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And the way that the money flow coming into these programs builds up what they then try to turn around, not only to win championships, clearly that's goal number one for the coaches and for the programs, but in what's the term we've all become familiar with over the past 10 years, improving our brand, the branding element of it, I think. And not just, I'd noticed it with so many different programs, not just Texas or A&M or Oklahoma, but I mean, my alma mater where I went to school, North Texas, so we're colleges of these smaller colleges in the Mid-American Conference. The branding element is so important now. And I think the money has changed a lot of that, but it also does raise the visibility. And I think one thing feeds into another because you have the marketing side of it. You guys always, I know you get a good laugh out of it. Anytime we look back at, let's say, a game at Memorial Stadium, Austin in the early 80s, saw a game, it was like from 82, Texas, Miami, something like that.
Yep.
Look at the stand. There's nobody wearing gear.
Yeah, no.
They're wearing sports shirts. You go back 15 years prior to that, they're coats and ties, snap rim fedoras and stuff like that. So I think that's an outreach to the fan base, and they feel more of a part of the program. And of course, it feeds itself. They're feeding the kitty more in terms of the financial. But I think it's become communal as a result of that. It was one thing Greg Sankey was talking about when the guy from Ireland asked him if there's any possibility of an SEC game in Ireland. Instead of thinking, but
Kentucky bourbon
Sankey can lay it out in much more clear to understand terms that the communal aspect of college football of 100,000 fans in stadium. And it's just extremely difficult to replicate that, obviously financially, but also even in terms of the environment.
Yeah.
If you're playing, foreign country, doesn't mean it will never happen with the SEC, but I think you're more likely to see an Iowa State, K-State game in Dublin, certainly before, or a Texas Tech against something, certainly before you would see Texas, Arkansas. Yeah, they're simply because of the nature of what those games are.
I won't put you on the spot now, but next time we have you on, I'm going to ask you for your Mount Rushmore of Texas athletics in your time in doing this. But I won't put you on the spot now because you got to think.
You got to think it through.
Next time we have you on.
I also want to say this to you before we go. When I'm thinking about the transition of Texas's through the years, I think Texas is uniquely positioned right now because I thought DeLoss Dodds was a perfect athletic director for about 15 years. That time of college football and college sports, he was terrific. I think Chris Del Conte is similarly situated for this era. Yeah, they're almost perfect for their individual time horizons.
I couldn't agree more. The loss was the perfect guy to lead it forward from the 80s into the 90s. He understood what it meant when folks said, you make a lot of money with the athletes, you would make a lot of a spindle. And again, that comes back around to that branding and the identity of a program. And that's, I think CDC understands that as well. While the chase for the almighty dollar has never been at a more fever pitch than it is right now, I think the chase to show what you have for the investment. When you look at DKR, Texas Memorial State ABC, names of different people who have given a lot of money to the program, that's what stuff we're seeing the residual effect of ball. And I think he does a fabulous job in marrying up the two.
All right, that's going to do it. Thanks, Jerry. Thank you so much, Craig Way. We appreciate you. Voice of the Longhorns, Craig Way, longtime friend as well. He has interviewed me many more times than I have interviewed him through the years. So Craig, thank you so much. We appreciate you.